Welcome, Saumil. Great to have you here in the studio. Introduce yourself.
Likewise, Christian. Thank you for having me here. My name is Saumil Bhansali, and then in terms of my background, I'm an engineer by qualification. I worked in the tech industry across Asia Pacific, Middle East, and Africa for a number of years before getting into banking. So I worked in investment banking. I worked founders and CEOs in the tech industry, helped them raise capital, and helped them provided them strategic advisory on M&A. And over the past 2 years or so, I've been working with healthcare service company called Monad Health, where I head the corporate finance function. So I manage the finances of the company and work pretty closely with the CEO. So I'm his right hand man, and then work pretty closely in terms of navigating the hardships of building a startup company.
And what is Monad Health doing precisely?
Sure. So Monad Health is a healthcare services company. So we provide healthcare services like nursing and therapies to people who cannot get out of their homes and go to hospitals or skilled nursing facilities. So we employ nurses and therapists and aides who help the patient with recovery from hospitalization and other things. So it's a part of the government program where they're trying to reduce the burden on the hospitals by providing or taking care from the hospitals to the patient's own home. They have the comfort of their own home. They get the services that are needed and then at a significantly commercial terms as well. So we work with patients, we work with hospitals, and we also work with insurance providers.
And the company is growing at a really fast pace. You're basically an expert in growing a company at a really fast pace. So we're curious to your secret. How do you grow the company so fast?
I think the opportunity was there, but we could have grown at a significantly higher pace as well. But we've seen several companies falter, and from my experience in investment banking, I've come to know that the only way a company can stop running is when they run out of cash. So opportunity was massive in the space that we operated in. It was important to have a controlled growth. So growing at 120% was still pretty reasonable, but then we also had to make sure that the growth does not kill us. If we grow too fast, it is not going to be sustainable. So first of all, it is not going to be sustainable in the long run. And in the short term, we also have to ensure that our cash flows are there, profitability is there. Balancing the two was pretty critical. Specifically for Monad Health, what happens is that, we provide services to the patient. We then have to bill the insurance providers, and then, we receive cash from the insurance providers about 3 to 4 months after the services have been provided. So if you're growing too fast, typically run into a cash flow issue. So ensuring that, the forecasting is there. We have the specific buffers built in. We have the financing facilities in place because we need to have about 3 to 4 months of cash flow to sustain without receiving the payment from the insurance providers. So balancing the two is pretty critical. So, grow, but also keep a check on your cash flow. That's been my advice to my CEO as well. Like he wants to keep growing, but then, you also keep a check on your bank balance.
When you grow, do you also apply AI in your company?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think technology has been pretty transformational in the way we've operated. So when we took over the company, it was run a pretty old school way. There were a lot of, when the therapists and the nurses go to patients' home, there were paper documentation where, they are carrying iPads or handheld devices, and whatever notes they take gets uploaded to the cloud. So the updates and the notes are available real time. We use a lot of AI to kind of, translate that in our backend operations as well. We do apply a lot of AI in terms of, managing our backend operations as well. That helped us streamline, save cost, and drive a lot of efficiency. So because of that, we are able to take on, patients where, most of our peers have not been willing to take on because, skills are prohibitory for them to take on. So, we are able to pay our nurses top dollars because of the able to drive by using technology. And that's helped. I think technology and AI are probably our core differentiators versus our peers.
That's fabulous to hear that you already implement AI in your company and improving the team results. We're curious, you gave us good advice on growth, but maybe you have a last advice for our listeners, how they can improve and grow their business. We're always curious to hear through your smart experience.
I would say, you should generally be open and nimble in terms of adapting to the situation. Right now, we are seeing AI is making huge progress everywhere. So companies which were cutting edge or leading edge 10 years ago are now called legacy platforms. it is important to be able to adapt and grow. Like you might have grown, but then markets or the world doesn't care about your historical growth. It's about how nimble you are, how adaptive you are to the changing times. The customers' needs would change, the technology would change. So you need to keep evolving with it. So don't rest on your laurels. Be open to keep an eye on what your competitors are doing, keep an eye how you can drive efficiency, and then be open to adopting technology. I think technology has been the backbone of our growth.
Thank you for this valuable advice and for your time of being here in the podcast.